Hi, I'm Dave with Beer Chow. I'm here with Dave Engbers, the co-founder, vice president of Founders Brewing in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Dave, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming to Founders.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is a beautiful place, by the way, and we're just really happy to be here today.
Great.
Basically, I assume with the name like Engbers that you are of Dutch heritage.
I am 100% Dutch.
Nice, me too.
Nice.
So we have a Dutch word that we use as a toast for Beer Chow and our sign-off, which is gezondheid.
Gezondheid.
Health and well-being. And so,
I like it.
Gezondheid.
Gezondheid. That's a new one for me, but I will spread the word.
So going into this whole Dutch thing and this side of Michigan, there's this amazing farming history. I know mainly farmed by the Dutch, especially in this area here. And Michigan has this impressive farming and agriculture. And how did that, growing up in this area, kind of lead you to coming to Founders and starting this?
Well, you know, the one thing for me with my Dutch heritage was food was always a huge part of our lives. And I mean, just sitting around, the stuff that tends to get forgotten now about sitting around a table, having, breaking bread with your family and your extended family. And that's, growing up, that's what we did on a weekly basis. Both sets of grandparents were here in town. And so we always, I would say at least 2 to 3 days a week, would see our grandparents and we would all sit down as a family. And food has always been a huge part of our lives. And I always tell people that my mother was still is a great cook, and flavor was always a big part of our life growing up. And my mom used to actually teach cooking classes in our house to like high school kids, and it wasn't super in-depth stuff, but it was, teaching kids how to hold a knife, well, how to core a tomato, how to saute, these kind of elementary things, but to a high school class, it's pretty important stuff. Yeah. And so she was doing that when I was this tall.
Wow.
And so then as I was getting older, to bring it back to the beer side of things, my dad was not a huge beer fan, but he always had beer on the back porch, and so at a fairly young age I started stealing that beer and experimenting, as most kids might do. But then when I was 17 years old, I went out to visit my oldest brother, who was living in California for 10 years. And so he moved out when I was young, and I really didn't know him very well. But he introduced me to craft beer.
Okay.
And so kind of going full circle, so flavor was always important growing up, but then my brother introduced me to craft beer. I had my first Mendocino County Red Tail Ale. I think I was 16 or 17 years old, and it was the day that changed my life.
Wow, that's. I think there's a lot of people that kind of have a story that can be like that, where they've had their first real taste of flavorful beer, and it changes them.
Yeah,
it really
it's an epiphany when people, we still see it when people say, "Oh, I don't like beer," and you say, well, when's the last time you had a beer? And they said, 20 years ago. Well, we're in a whole new world now. And with all the different flavor profiles, there's great beer being brewed all over the world. People have access to just some phenomenal flavors that, unfortunately, a lot of people kind of are blind to.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be where you would go to a certain place to get a certain beer. Now I feel like you can go to your regular corner boring liquor store, if you will, or a bottle shop, and find a whole shelf full of craft beer.
If they don't have it, they're struggling.
Yeah, they're going out of business basically.
Yeah.
More or less. But yeah, no, it's really an amazing revolution what's going on here. And so my next question would be, you have this beautiful tap room that you guys built here, and what is your vision for the tap room? How is that important to serving the patrons and Founders that are coming?
Well, we've been here at this location for 5 years. Our first 10 years at our original location was a great place for us to learn our craft, and we had a great little bar there, but it was quite small, and frankly, it wasn't much of a production facility. So as the demand for our brand increased, we found this old dilapidated building, and we were able to transform that into the Founders Tap Room, and then build this beautiful production facility off the west side of this building. So, and this building just continues to evolve. The red wall over there was the outside of our building less than 2 years ago. So this was our parking lot.
Wow.
So we will continue to grow as the brand is growing. It's our responsibility to continue to keep up with that demand and take care of those beer enthusiasts. So the tap room out front is really key in building the personality of the Founders brand. And for us, from a product standpoint, the tap room is our playground. That's where you find beers like Founders Oatmeal Stout or Solid Gold, Spite, our Pepper Pale Ale. At any given time, you might find 10 beers that are exclusively only available in our tap room. So, you know, that's a big part of it. But also part of the tap room is the vibe, the personality, getting to spend time and talk to the bartenders and our brewers and cellarmen and packaging folks. I mean, it really is an extension of the brewery.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the perceptions, at least in the Chicago market where we're at, is that Founders gets it right. They know what they're doing. This is this perception that I hear from everyone. I don't know if you can elaborate on that. What is it about Founders that's getting it right?
Well, to me, getting it right means you never compromise your principles. You know, we don't take shortcuts. We get the best ingredients available to us, and you know, we really are servants to the beer. You know, if the beer's not ready yet, we don't rush it. And so, you know, quite a few of our beers that we barrel age today, packaging Backwoods Bastard right now. That beer it's developing and evolving every day when it sits in those bourbon barrels, and we age all the Backwoods Bastard and all the Kentucky Breakfast Stout, the KBS, about 85 feet underground in the old gypsum mines, and you know, we go down there routinely and pull samples from those barrels, and when the beer's ready, that's when it's ready. And it makes it a little difficult because as a distributing brewery, you know, your wholesalers and the beer enthusiast community, they want to know when these beers are going to be available and when they're going to be in market. So we have a pretty good idea. We've done this long enough and we've got a long enough history that we have a pretty good idea when these beers are coming out. But there are times when we've had beers that are on our schedule, and we've communicated this to our wholesalers, and then we sample it and we said, it's good, damn good, but it has potential to be better. And so if any beer has potential to be better, we're gonna push off the release. You know, that's our responsibility as a brewery. So if getting it right means anything to me, it means that we are quality oriented. You know, we're driven by the quality of our beer. So that's a beautiful thing.
So speaking of barrel aging, KBS Day, which has become a phenomenon, if you will. You know, we were those guys standing in line this past year. I mean, we waited in line, we heard the rumors, how much there is, and then we heard you're dividing up the allotment, and then there was tickets passed out, and I was probably like last in line to get a ticket, and very excited and cold at the same time. But looking forward to your next KBS Day, is there something that you're going to do differently, or you're going to just do what you guys always do and just focus on that beer? And
yeah, I mean, that's one of the issues that, you know, it's difficult because it's not very predictable. And, you know, the first time we released Kentucky Breakfast Stout, I think we had 70 cases, and it took us about 5 months to sell. And then the next year when we produced Kentucky Breakfast Stout, I think we produced about the same amount, and it took about 2 months to sell. And then you know, as the years have gone on, last year I think we had 300 cases or so, and you know, it sold out in a matter of hours. And as you know, I drove by at about 7 in the morning, and then there was, you know, 1,500, 2,000 people. Can't tell you how humbling that is. But we create the beer. We are a brewery. You know, it's our beer, but we try not to create hype. Hype happens, and we can't control it. It's out of our control. So it's our responsibility as a brewery to brew and keep people happy. But there's also a reality to being a production brewery that we've got responsibilities to Red's Rye, Centennial IPA, Founders Porter, Dirty Bastard, all of our other flagships that, you know, we would be doing ourselves a huge disservice if we turned our back on the beers that are available throughout the year just so we could brew additional Kentucky Breakfast Stout. And that's really difficult. You know, we have increased the volume, I think, about threefold. Okay. You know, so there's definitely going to be more this year than there ever has been, but I guarantee we will always, there's always somebody who's not going to get it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll be here next year too.
Great.